Never. I'll never turn to the dark side. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me. So be it, Jedi. This is where the fun begins. Are you sure? So be it.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thursday morning CAF CHAT on my channel, OG Star Wars here. And I am so excited to be here with you guys. I see everybody, blah, blah, blah. And so I just like stumble over my words because I'm so excited. So I see everyone is popping in. Good morning. And as you come in, please smash the like button, share across all your media platforms that we are live this morning. I do have some good topics we're going to discuss here, and that's probably going to lead into random lore talk throughout Star Wars, maybe. So I don't have a set idea of the lore talk. I will let that go organically with the topics that I'm going to share here. And if you are catching the replay, thank you so much for coming in and tuning in after. Please let me know you were here by leaving a comment below and like, of course, and share. Even though that you're catching the replay, please share out with your friends and family on social media, all the platforms that you belong to. Yes. So good morning, everyone. And I see that I had a few people come and pop in early as I was setting up and everything. Raging Rhino, who is in Australia, so his time frame is very different than mine, of course, first. And good morning to Raging Rhino from California. And his show is tonight, so I think it's about 7-ish. I have to take a look. So Casual Rage is tonight. I'll probably be popping in listening as I beat. I have a beaded dance set that I'm finishing up, and that's a lot of work. So if you guys seen some of the images that I've shared before on Twitter or even here on the stream, yeah, I am putting together a beaded dance set, and that takes a lot of time. So I want to finish up by next weekend, and I still have some ways to go. So I'll probably be listening in, modding as much as I can. Casual Rage tonight. So check that out. Check it out. And let's see here. And so Assassin, why can't OG ever take us to Naboo or Onderon? Maybe Zeltros. Oh my God. That's so funny. Why can't we just go here or there? You know what? I think I'm going to do a Zeltron for the next emoji, member emoji. I haven't decided what I wanted to do next. And I do have a couple of spots that need to be filled for the emoji. So maybe a Zeltron. Maybe I'll do Delilah Blue or something on there. We'll see. All right. And I do have a question that I asked you, and we'll get to that here pretty soon. The Fracture Filter says, howdy, y'all. And howdy to you as well. Iron Inquisitor is here. Good morning. Got my coffee ready. And good morning to you. And of course, our mod, My Vato, Soul Assassin, welcome all. Please smash the like button and consider becoming a channel member. And I did stay up late last night beating, so I'm not on screen. I'm not fully ready for the day. I'm still in my pajamas. And so you're just going to get the voice in my avatar. Me as Merrick's horn, Merrick's Tarek horn. So that's what you're going to get. And then, of course, I'm saying good morning to everybody. Blackest Night is here. So, would OG consider being a co-counsel for Chris Gore's trial on Court 9 of the trial against Disney? I will have to think about that because my time has been busy. It's been hard for me to schedule myself into other live streams. The spacing is a set one that I'm on all the time, but like I said, I'm busy with work. I work in a studio teaching yoga and stuff, and I work in my own studio, all of that, and plus beadwork. So we'll have to chat on that later. So if you have me on Twitter, DM me. I mean, I'm not promising anything, but that would be interesting. All right. So OG Star, or that's me. See, I'm tired. I'm tired. Okay. So the first question is, besides the Thrawn trilogy, what is your favorite go-to novel? So I want everybody to share that. That's the first question. And then Fracture Filter, hello. Favorite go-to novels would be Path of Destruction, Kenobi, and Revenge of the Sith. Though I listen to the audiobooks, I enjoy the hell out of them. That's good. That's good. Always find myself looking up audio quotes from Kenobi, Plagueis, Bane, or the Revan novel. Yeah, those are good sources right there. Those are really good sources, especially when people start quoting things about oh well, George never said the Sith and Jedi fought before, or had war, or anything pertaining to the Sith and the history from the PT in the Old Republic, going all the way back to even Revan and Bane and stuff like that. So yeah, and the thing is that we're going to discuss about a little bit about canon today. So here are the topics. We're going to discuss a little bit about canon today. I'm going to also bring up some quotes again from George, and what was debunked. I might as well just do that again. And then we're going to also discuss some Empire magazine and image on that, and lore. Like I said, that's open. But the cringe factor topic is the PT ruined Luke Skywalker's power, or Billy powers, or whatever. And so because the cringe factor is going to be about the PT and then the OT in general because of Luke Skywalker, then we're going to probably discuss more about the Jedi in their prime when we see them in the PT, because we're supposed to see them at their best, at their, like they have their structure of training down, all of that. We're supposed to see them at their prime. Versus when we see Luke Skywalker, his training was very, very unconventional because there was no order, there was no temple. There was I could say Yoda and Obi-Wan still being involved, there was an order. But what I mean by order is the temple and the structure of, all the training facilities in the temple, all the equipment, all of that. That was all gone. So his lessons were very unconventional and unconventional. And they used basically nature and resources that that they had on them, like when Obi-Wan was training Luke on the Falcon, and then he used a helmet, which when we see in the PT, they have that little circular, like that dome helmet that they put on, and with the blinders on it and stuff like that. And then when we see Yoda training him on Dagobah, they use the natural resources. And that was filled with so much like force energy because there was a lot of life there and everything like that. It really helped Luke connect and be aware of the force, I guess you can say. So anyways, yeah, so we'll be discussing that, my little tangent already. Jackson says, forget go-to novels are the X-Wing series and Young Jedi Knights our favorite. I don't know why I say forget. Favorite. Told you I'm tired. I went to bed almost at 2 last night. All right. Favorite go-to novels are the X-Wing series and Young Jedi Knights. Anderson is one of the that developed lightsabers and the new Jedi at best. Yeah, those Young Jedi Knights. Oh my God. The X-Wing series too is a great series as well. So if you really, 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 because everybody's boasting about this Andor show, which did break continuity, was very slow. They, say, oh, it was intelligent writing. Some of the stuff, like the speeches, were contrived. That's not intelligent. There's contrived. I've seen better speeches that were more concise than that. But anyways, so if you want to have a series that still has remnants of the Force and Jedi, I guess you could say, but it's not about them, because Star Wars in general is about the Force, is about the Force user sects, I guess you could say, of the Jedi and the Sith and stuff like that. That's always going to be a integral part of Star Wars. But if you want a series that, I wouldn't say strays, but focuses on a little different area of what's going on in the war or what's going on at the time that the series is based upon, X-Wing series is the go-to. So is Han Solo trilogy. And so those two I are at the top of my mind about going to a series that doesn't necessarily have the Jedi or even Sith, conflict going on in it. However, when you get to the X-Wing, when you get into the New Republic era, or no, Dark Times, especially the OT and everything like that, and even before the OT, the Dark Times, they are fighting the oppression of the Sith. So that is still, so that is still a time of where we see that type of Force users, the Sith oppression, and the dominancy of them and stuff. The Emperor, Vader, the Inquisitors or the Dark Jedi, or whoever they use to install fear and then also hunt down whatever remaining Jedi are there. Yeah. So anyway, it's going on. So, okay, favorite go-to comics. That was going to be question 2, but if you guys want to, because it was already asked, go ahead and answer that. So thank you, Soul. I don't have to worry about that or forget about it since I'm a little tired. Go-to comics, like Comics Legacy, Republic, and Couture. Okay. You're straight down with, Jan and them with the Legacy and Republics. Yeah. Ostrander and all them. Yes. Let's see here. Books, Darth Bane. And then we have Logan here. Hey, OG. Hey, how are you doing? And of course, I didn't ask this earlier. What are you guys sharing for your beverage? What's in your mug? I usually say, oh, well, that's the most important question, and I didn't even ask it yet. But yeah, so what are you sharing? What are you having? What's in your mug? Lady of Iron. Every evening, OG, finally get to watch your stream after work today with the hearts, like a pulsating heart. Thank you so much for being here. And then, of course, here's the link to Casual Rage. Avatar OG only today, but at least she's a cool jacket, or has a cool jacket in it. Yes. So this jacket is, I had one similar to it, but it's brown. Yeah. And of course, if you know Corran Horn and Booster Tarek, this is Booster's daughter, Merrick's, and Corran's wife. And I did the reface, and so my face is on her face, and it just blends perfectly. It's like I could cosplay this lady. I can, and get away with it. She has dark hair, like black, and and stuff, and she's tiny as well. Very sassy too. She's a very sassy lady. Yeah. Non-Force user, but her 2 children eventually became Jedi. And of course, Valen Horn is like his dad. He's not very strong in the telekinesis area, just like his dad. But, he's got talents elsewhere. And I think that was pretty interesting. So I know some people like Corran Horn's the one that's either you like him or hate him kind of deal. And I like the fact that a Jedi was, was ability, like he wasn't given the standard ability of like the telekinesis, and showed him stronger in different areas. And I like how other Jedi can be strong in one way, part of the Force, or abilities, versus the other. It makes it unique. It makes the Force a mystery, more a mystery, especially after the midichlorians, when people were not liking that George brought the midichlorians, because they're like, oh, now the Force is not so mysterious. It's still a mystery. We don't know how, like, who's going to have what abilities. The midis just show that how the Force is harnessed through the body. That's it. That's all. But the abilities, the strength, and the strength is also determined on midichlorians and stuff, but the abilities is not. So that's the mystery in it. There's a lot more mystery in it. But anyways, yeah, so Cornhorn and his son Valen are not strong in telekinesis. And so I thought that was very, very interesting to like open up abilities that way too, so that not every single Jedi is going to have the same abilities. Just like healers, Barriss Offee is a healer, and Seagull too is a healer, and Luke not necessarily. He can not on their power, not on their strength. So even though Luke is the son of the chosen one and is the most strongest Force user, then maybe compared to, or next to Anakin, he doesn't have those Force healing abilities like Barriss and Seagull. A Seagull. You know who I'm talking about. Hopefully you guys know who I'm talking about. Yeah, so I think that's very interesting. Even with Luke Skywalker, there was some abilities he did not have. So people would bitch and complain, especially the Star Wars fans, comparing him to Rey. Oh, he's a Gary Stu. He's so very powerful, and he did everything everything in the OT. He didn't need help. And I'm like, did you really watch the OT to come to that conclusion? It's like he failed every step of the way, making his way as a Jedi Knight. He had to be reminded to use the Force. He got his ass kicked by the Sith Lord, by the Darksider that he went to fight. Yet he's a Gary Stu compared to Rey, who did not lose any fights, who saved herself countless time, was able to use the Force without training, like even like mind trick. Yeah, but anyways, that's long been discussed and whatever, but yeah. It's so fucking stupid. All right, Logan says, don't really have a go-to, but I just started reading Vector Prime. Oh, you are starting New Jedi Order. I am so interested on what you think. This series is a no holds bar on, I would say, introducing new villains, the dark times that this brings. Holy heck, just to be a reader again, like experiencing Vector Prime for the first time. Again, I still have the feelings when I first read it. It got me hooked. I wanted to know what's next. I wanted to know, okay, so who are these threats? What's going on? How is Luke, how is the New Republic gonna face these guys? The Vong. Yeah. All right. I'm excited for you. Iris says, I go to the Tales of. I really like the short stories. Nice. Those are fun. Those are fun to read. Lady of Iron, my favorite go-to novels would be Legacy of the Force, Sacrifice. Wow, okay. Or Republic Commando True Colors. Three both Mando focused, of course. Okay, because Legacy is a Karen Travis as well. Yeah. And that was another one when Sacrifice came out. Of course, we would have huge Mara Jade fans. And when the decision was to kill her off, Oh boy, that was some interesting times. I didn't mind. I thought that it furthered the story of Luke, and even Ben. He needed something. He needed some kind of tragedy in his life. He needed something. The New Jedi Order, that brought tragedy, like galaxy wise, and yes, and losing the nephew. But that deepest tragedy was Leia's. But man, Leia took a lot of tragedy, and so did Han. Holy heck! So I'm losing Chewie, and I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna spoil it. Oh my God! So the losses that they took, so heartbreaking. But you can't have the same kind of story all the time when there's no sacrifice, no pun in, or I'm not trying, pun intended for the novel sacrifice, but you have to have turmoil, you have to have great loss, all of that, and not the same old cookie cutter stuff that was created by the movies. The movies are the foundation. That is like where you can go to. George set the rules, and we'll get into the canon and stuff here pretty soon. And the authors understood how to expand through history without keeping the same old trope, the same old theme over and over and over again. And I think I know that's why I love the expanded universe, because they carried on through the history. They evolved through the history because that's what was needed. Not the same old trope, not the same old theme. You still have the good versus bad. That's always the underlining story of Star Wars. But good versus bad doesn't have to be the same thing over and over again. And New Jedi already gave us that. And so wonderful. The EU is magnificent in its own. And then we have Holocron Library Fox. Good morning, Alora. And then hail to the chat. And Rookie Critic, how you doing? Good morning. I hope you are doing well. I did a couple of review series with him, so go ahead and check that out. I'm like, series. I'm talking about series, so I might as well just keep talking about series, even though there's probably only a few I did with this. So go check out his channel and subscribe if you have not. Iris says, add some espresso to your CAF. I don't have an espresso machine at home anymore. Let's hear. No, it was a broken mess and snooze fest. Right. X-Wing audiobooks. There you go. So, and I think I shared it. Let me see. Which one is out now? Through the audiobooks on YouTube. I think the Starfighters of Adamar is now out for that series. Yeah, so I shared it on my community page on Twitter. But Star Wars X-Wings Starfighter of Adamar, fully abridged, is now up. So check that out. That's the next one that's up. That is a fun one to read as well. Yes, it's under Hidden Gems. So they just have that new one up, Starfighters of Adamar, for the X-Wing series. So go check it out. Logan says, I'm drinking hot coffee. Awesome. And I just recently rediscovered my Star Wars story books from Scholastic that I've had since I was a youngling. Wow. I remember those days. You had the library book sale, and you got sent home that paper where you have all these different stories you could choose from, and you're like wishing you can have a lot of things on there. And then I also liked collecting stickers and stuff. So, I would look at stickers and oh, I don't have these kind of stickers. And it didn't matter what kind they were. I collected them. I had a sticker book from the scratch and sniff to the little puffy ones, the holographic ones, or what have you. I collected all, so getting those Scholastic papers to, order your books and then going to the book fair, that was the time. And I remember looking for Star Wars stuff. Yeah. And among other things. I'm finishing up my raspberry leaf tea and wanting a cup of coffee. Ooh, raspberry leaf tea. Sounds good with honey. maybe a little bit lavender too in that. Let's see here. 99th Jedi Warrior. Luke was pretty close to his father's potential, at least. I always wanted to see Anakin at his full potential. Well, the thing, George said that Luke became what his father should have been, and that Luke was the strongest. So, I mean, but we can all debate, with that, Anakin was a chosen one, and so forth, and made by the Force, through Shmi. And yeah, so that's something that we can all like discuss and debate, and I think all of us will have varying degree of varying of agreement and disagree on certain points if we really had that huge discussion. Yeah. And I think it was the Sentinel that shared that in one of the insider magazines, I believe, or a source book, I don't remember exactly what it was from. They had to compare like Anakin versus Luke, and Luke did win out on that one. So it's Gary Stew. Gary Stew. Yeah. And let's see here. Seems that Skywalker family can't catch a break. Always getting into something or losing someone. Right. It's just, like they're the heroes or they're the influence of the galaxy, but they see a lot of tragedy. Sticker book nerd. I'm telling you, I loved my art. I've gotten awards since elementary all the way up into high school for my art. I love collecting stickers. I love my Star Wars. I also liked, and this is another nerd thing about me, but I would sit down with my grandmother, and this has nothing to do with Star Wars, but I'm going to share this with you. Like sticker books didn't really have anything to do with Star Wars, unless I did collect Star Wars stickers. But I would sit down with my grandma every like evening, especially Saturday, like afternoons or evenings, and we would watch PBS, but we would watch those Discovery like animal shows. And then another nerdy thing about me that I've probably shared here before is I love watching PBS like art shows like Bob Ross and all that stuff. Yeah, yeah. So I was watching a lot of like documentary stuff about animals, about the earth, all this other stuff, even about space, the galaxy, and the planets in our galaxy and stuff. I did that all. So yeah, my grandma, she just loved learning more about who we are, about Earth, where we live, the greater galaxy, I guess you could say, all of that, on top of everything that I was raised with. So am I a well-rounded nerd? Maybe, I don't know. But those nights I cherished, or those times I cherished with her, because, we got to sit on the couch, and she took me and raised me since I was a baby. So she took her golden years of her life and gave them to me, raised me. And so just remembering just laying on the couch with her, watching those shows, and even Star Trek, among other shows. And that was the best times, the best of times. Let's see here. Wasn't Wishbone on PBS? He was a classy dog. Yes, I think so. Yeah, and about the original origins of Anakin. A lot of people say Palpatine and Plagueis created Anakin, but the Force had repurposed Anakin to be to save the galaxy. Yeah. So if only Qui-Gon survived. Yeah, so they didn't. The Force countered their messing with midichlorians and the Force, and wanting to creating such a dark side essence in the galaxy that the Force responded back with Anakin. So were they the catalyst? Probably, more than likely, but they did not create. There we go. All right. So Soul Assassin asked the second question. So what is your favorite comics to go to if you haven't answered yet? And we are going to get into the canon portion of what I want to talk about. What are your favorite go-to comics? There you go. what are your favorite go-to? I know some of you guys shared already, like one or two of you, but go ahead and share. There's a lot. I mean, if anything, I think when it comes to comic production, I think that really supersedes the novels. There are far more comics than novels, but majority line up with the novels. Now, we're not talking more or less the early Marvel comics that were random fun stories and stuff like that kind of tied to the movies. Because that Marvel came in and took the bid for the comics in early times, like in the 70s and in 80s. And then after they decide to step away from Star Wars, Marvel did. Dark Horse stepped up, and that's when comics production for Star Wars started taking off. Dark Horse set the bar for Star Wars comics. Hands down. Hands down. All right. So let's get into this. So I have this issue here. I have some issues of insider, like, copies, physical copies. But I don't have them all, but I was graced with copies, digital copies, as well. So I just didn't see if this was included in the digital copies that I was sent, and I haven't taken a look at all of them, and I have to get my separate little drive to put them on. So, but I do have the copy here, and this is issue 101, May and June 2008. So, what is canon? And what makes up canon? And how did this hierarchy begin? How did the term canon, not the term canon, if you want to know how canon came about, watch Open Airlock Policy's documentary on canon. It doesn't just talk about Star Wars. It gives you a history and through different franchises as well. So, but what set the bar for continuity in the Star Wars canon? Like, and we all know it's realizing that fans wanted a seamless history to the movies. Every other franchise did the multiverse, where every single story, and they can reboot a story over and over again, and it doesn't necessarily have to tie in to a main story, like the story that is the foundation of that franchise. It can go off in its own little tangent. Well, Star Wars is completely different. And I think that's what brought everybody in, all the EU fans in, is the one single continuity in the canon. It was one history, one timeline. And the foundation is the movies. And here is Open Airlock's link. So if you haven't subscribed to him, I know majority or some of you guys have, but go check out that video, what is canon, and subscribe to his channel, or become a member as well. And same here, become a member of the channel. Let's see what you guys have to say. The Rise of Lord Vader is my favorite. And we're talking about original EU, original lore, not Disney stuff. Vertical Horizon says, any Kirby comics, because his colors and the designs just pop out and grab your attention, especially the early Marvel and Dark Horse Star Wars comics. Wow. Okay. So I love the fact that, like, some people, like, when you're reading comics, it's not only just the story, it's the visual. So maybe that's why sometimes people are turned off by Dark Empire, because the creativeness, like the direction that was taken for the art in it. But for the comics, you read with your eyes as well. Inquisitor says Insider Issue 101 is one of my faves. The first source I had that confirmed the EU was official canon. Correct. And we're going to go through that. We're going to go through that right now. Dark Horse did so many great Star Wars comics. Definitely looking forward to the Tales of the Jedi Epic Collection to come out. And I always encourage, don't give your money to Disney as if you cannot help it. If you can find the comics without given to the Legends label Disney, by all means, do it. If you cannot find everything you want and can find like these comic epic collections secondhand where you're not given money directly to, that's the better option too. So like I said, try your best not to, what have you. And that's always been my stance. Is after I decided to step away from, at first, like I said, at first, so I want to say always, at first, I was like, oh, by Legends, show them what we want. Show them the lore, lore-wise, what we want. But now, I changed my stance. That's why I say I should never say always. To, buy third party if you can. Buy originals if you can. But I understand that these epic collections gives you the collection of that time period. I fully understand that as well. So, the same can be said with Vader trying to clone Galen Merrick. Cloning the Force sensitive seems to be apparent to the Force as well. Most of Merrick's clones went nuts. Yeah, and we see that even Thrawn Trilogy gave us an example of a Jedi going crazy, because we had the Jurus Sabayoth, the cloned dark Jedi. Yeah. All right. So here we go. So I'm going back to this here. And so this is the issue here that I have. I physically have. I have it right here in front of me. And this gives you and when you open up this issue here, and I'm not coming on screen. I'm sorry. I'm not like screen ready. There's so much interesting things to look at. Like you have the greatest ever lightsaber battles, and this is in the movies, I just believe, pertaining to the movies. Then you have the essential expanded universe, and that's what we're going to discuss right now. And then a long time ago, where were you, or what were you doing in 1980? And it has a history of Star Wars during that time, which I would love to bring up as another topic for CAF Chat. And then it gets into the legacy comics and discussing that as well. And then, of course, many other little fun things to look at in there. If you have a chance and you can pick up some of these insiders, do it. They hold a lot of gems in there. They do. Sometimes they have the short stories as well. So check them out. They are worth your time in purchasing as well. And I will try to be more diligent on sending links on resources where you can find comics and books at, our original prints, our pre-Disney print for you guys as well. Yeah, for you guys as well. So let's go ahead and check this out. Oh, I'm safe. Okay, so this came out June 2008, issue 101. Let's see here. 1980, I wasn't even a thought then. Oh, you're so young. All right, let's see here. So this is the section we're going to discuss, and it's going to get into the hierarchy of canon and what that really means to us fans versus the company. So with this, I did put a little history here. The Clone Wars film premiered August 2008. So this is right before. That's why you see a glimpse of a very young Ahsoka here. And that's why you still get Clone Wars 03 images alongside this. Because TCW, both in film and series, cartoon series, are not out. So I find that interesting. And, we know that the film is more or less about Ahsoka. And that's probably why she is like the bigger image right here. And that's fine. That's fine. Whatever. It's fine. And, of course, the cartoon show came out in October 2008. So very interesting bit of read here. Very interesting. So we're going to get into that. Vertical Horizon says, always cool little tidbits of the information of those about the movie and even sometimes the EU. All right. So here it is. Let me go ahead and just make this big screen. Like maybe that helps you guys out. I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and read some of this to you guys here and go through this. I do have an area that I really want to touch bases on inside this bit of article here. Several hundred Star Wars books have been published to date. So we're looking back at May and June 2008 during the time. Enough pages to reach Tatooine and back. I like that little insert. The growing roster of stories known as Expanded Universe, everything in non-film media, including television. Interesting. Everything in the Expanded Universe, including non-film, that's non-film media. So they put television, novels, video games, and comics. Television. Think about that now. Television. Everything in the non-film media. All right. So I find that very interesting. That's key. As added gigabytes of detail and events to the history of that galaxy far, far away. Yet even the biggest fan can be forgiven for wincing when asked to catch up on 30 years of logged fiction. Fortunately, the expanding universe is like a salad bar. You don't have to eat the whole thing. Correct. I've always said that. Everybody has their different eras of Star Wars they like. Their different stories that they like and they don't like. Presented here are the EU's tastiest bits. So this goes into like what's recommended to read it or not. I'm not going to get into all of that. Maybe I'll share in my community chat the pages that has recommendations for you guys. So we're not going to get into all of that. To sample something more exotic are simply ways to begin in your exploration in this in-depth menu. The concept of the expanded universe certainly isn't unique to Star Wars. Many popular genre properties, from Star Trek to Alien, release spin-off tales that shed light on events not seen in the official narrative. But the Star Wars EU is unique in both in its size and in the care in which its narrative is shepherded and organized. So the Star Wars EU is unique in both its size and its care which its narrative is shepherded and organized. In Star Wars, the expanded universe is official. So it's official. So what does that mean to you guys when it says it's official? It's official. That's mean it's a part of, it's the canon. It's a part of the canon. It is in continuity with the movies. It is a part of the saga. Albeit on a slightly lower level, sometimes called the C-Canon, and then the absolute authority of the Star Wars films. So the movies are the authority. Again, they're the foundation. And I've always spoken about this on Twitter and here on the channel. The movies set the foundation. They set the rules. They set the continuity or the lore. And the EU, basically expanding the universe, expands off of that, but keeps in line with the movies, keeps in continuity. They don't spin off or away unless you get some what if stories, which we'll get into some more here. The evidence is everywhere, from comic book characters Ayla Secura popping up in Revenge of the Sith to the name of the planet Coruscant, which originally appeared in Timothy Zahn's novel. Reference works such as the New Essentials chronologically fit every major storyline into a timeline spanning more than 30,000 standard or Earth years. So they're standard years. are basically mimic our Earth years, is what they're saying. With the movie saga occupying only a fraction of its pages, even behind the scenes, the EU is treated with great care. So even behind the scenes, so in Lucasfilm, the EU is treated with great care. Lucasfilm maintains an internal continuity Bible, the Holocron, to keep track of addition to the official lore. The first true expanded universe tale appeared in 1978 with the comic book Star Wars #7. When Marvel Comics moved beyond A New Hope to tell an original tale of Han and Chewie on the run from bounty hunters. TV followed with the same years with the strangely popular Star Wars Holiday Special. Strangely popular, that's a nice way to put it, right? Strangely popular. Debuting on November 17, 1978, and never to be aired again. so much for it being strangely popular, right? The Holiday Special also broke ground by introducing the Star Wars characters to the world of animation, paving the way for 2 animated series, Droid and Ewoks, in 1985. And mind you, these shows are what you call C-Canon. They're not a part of George's G-Canon, and we're going to get into more of that. A spin-off novel, Splinters of the Mind's Eye, debuted in 1978, and original Star Wars newspaper strip began appearing across the U.S. So, George had Splinters of the Mind Eye written as a sequel if Star Wars, now known as A New Hope, wasn't successful. And then he could do a cheap spin-off of that if he wanted to. And, you know, I guess you could say ghost written that too. And that's an EU novel. So George was contributing to the EU before it really set grounds and really became known as the expanded universe. Star Wars, okay, so guidebooks and supplements for the Star Wars role-playing game added minute start in 1987. Video games came late to the party, not providing unique inverse narratives if you don't count the Disney theme park ride Star Tours. Until 1993's X-Wing Space Combat Simulator, the variety of project that has proven 2 things: Star Wars setting and adaptable to any medium, and there's a seemingly inexhaustible demand for fresh tales from devoted fan base. So Star Wars truly was a multimedia franchise. And guess what? The movie didn't come out first. The novel did. But the movies are the foundation. They set the principles up for Star Wars in general. So when I talk and I discuss and I get into these debates where I end up getting blocked, so assassins should know all about that. Many of you guys should know that. But when I get into these discussions, I never discount the movies and their principle to Star Wars lore. They are the foundations. They are the ones that set everything forward. For if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here with the expanded universe. And of course, I don't discount George either. He has a lot to say with what is published, what isn't, what is a part of the lore, and what isn't. And if you get the Essential Reader's Guide, that shares a lot of that history there. If you get the Essential Comic Book 1, and I don't have the chronological one of the comic books, I don't have the proper name in front of me, and it's not in front of me, that also shares how the continuity is that with even the books. And, so like I said, I don't discount George, and he's the one that approves things that are going to be a part of his lore. Now people say, well, he said that that's not how he would have written it. Well, any author could say that about any book. They have the guidelines and the rules and the direction where to write and how to write and stuff within the timeline they're writing in. But every single author is going to tell a different version of that story in that time frame. And that goes with George Lucas. So when someone uses that as a rebuttal, well, George said he would never write it that way. Well, then look at Troy Denning versus James Luceno. If James Luceno was going to write Darkness Trilogy, do you think it's going to be the same? It's going to have some same context linking the ending and linking the New Jedi Order to Legacy. But do you think it's going to be written the same way? No, it's not. There's going to be underlying themes that will link the lore, but there would be a different outcome. Maybe slightly different, maybe more or less more different with Jason than we see now. Who knows? It also determines on what in-house wants the lore to go for Jason as well. But you're still going to get a different story no matter what. You're going to get a different point of view. So that's not a very good excuse or rebuttal. Well, George would have written it different. Every single person, even me, I probably would have written it different, because we are all of different mind and thoughts, and we have the guidelines in front of us, how we need to write it, but we're not going to write the same type of stories, like the same outcome or the same tone or whatever. So that's not a good rebuttal whatsoever. That's not a good rebuttal. Let me see what you guys have to say. It says, Holiday Special gave us Boba Fett cartoon, which was epic, but yeah, it's a cursed dream. Yeah, I think that's what everybody remembers is the Boba Fett cartoon. And there it is. And Jim, hello, how are you doing? I've seen the Holiday Special already. Would you watch it again? And then MB says, getting rid of my Weston Games Star Wars books is still a sting I feel from 2000. Oh, I can only imagine. Ouch. And then the cake. Okay, so the cake. Is it your birthday? I remember Alan Dean Foster saying that if Star Wars A New Hope failed at the box office, then George Lucas was going to continue the story novel form. Yeah, and that he also had Splinters written in such a way where it could be adapted to a movie, but he didn't go that way. So that was interesting. That was interesting. So here you go, you guys. This is the canon hierarchy. And it's very important to what is said in here to terms of, should we take this as a guide as fans, or is this in-house? So I'm going to go ahead and read here. Did any of this really happen? A common critique of the expanded universe is its size. No one. Some say should have to consume that much media to get the full Star Wars story. In fact, the 6 Star Wars movies have always been the core of this saga. So yes, the 6 Star Wars movies is the core. It's not just the saga. It's the core of the saga, meaning the expanded universe is a part of the saga, but the core, the foundation, all those key words, the movies. And the only absolutely essential parts to being a fan. So, so being a fan means that maybe you're just the movie fan. And that's it. And that's what you call maybe the common fan, where they just watch the movies and that's all. But then you have the hardcore fan. And those are the ones that want to know more beyond the movies. And there's nothing wrong with being just a common, ordinary fan versus a hardcore fan. So I don't know why people get offended when when they're called a common fan, or there's other little verbiage to be used for that. Casual fan is another one. So common fan, casual fan, they're the movie connoisseurs, right? They just consume the movies and that's it. There is nothing wrong with that. But when myself say, oh, well, you're just a common fan, casual fan, people get upset. And I don't know why. Are they embarrassed because they only watch the movies? If you're embarrassed that you only watch the movies and that's the only lore that you think about and want to consume, then maybe you should change that and become a hardcore fan and start consuming the EU. But anyways, I digress from that. But most of the EU is part of the broader story to Leland Chi, the keeper of the Lucasfilm holocron. An internal continuity base has his own way of differentiating among all the different sources. So this right here is his way. It is not the official way to differentiate all the sources. This is his way of keeping track. Now we get into discussions, and we have since this came out. And this came out, this is when this was published, like around this time frame is when he came out with this in 2008 of the different canons. But are the hierarchy of canon. Do you see C-Canon? No, you don't. Because this article just said that television is a part, it's not a part of the G-Canon, basically. It's a part of the C-Canon. This issue says that. So what does that mean for the coming TCW? Because during this time, TCW hasn't been out yet. What does that mean? It means that according to the structure of maintaining continuity, it is a part of C-Canon. And if you have been following Filoni and fans debunking his knowledge of the EU, only when he was caught lying about the EU is when we started seeing this T-Canon come up. Because then now he's like, he doesn't want to be associated with the C-Canon, in-house C-Canon, in-house hierarchy of canon. Because he wanted to be better than, above all. And he really didn't care about continuity either. So this really doesn't make sense to me. If you say you're this huge EU fan and then you were debunked, but then you don't keep continuity, where does your loyalty lie with the company and maintaining the official Star Wars canon throughout the whole multimedia project? Was there any loyalty? Was this all a self-insert narcissistic head trip of his once the T-Canon started coming out? I'm pretty sure it is. Because even when you look at him now, and I should go find that video of Sentinels and play it for you guys after this video, or after this right here. He mocks canon. He mocks keeping continuity. Because he's a narcissistic son of a bitch. Yep, I said it. I said it. I said it. So Leland Chi's own way of differentiating all the different sources. This is his way. This is in-house. Do the fans really have to adhere to this? No. All they need to know that is the EU is canon. This is an in-house guide for Leland Chi himself. This isn't for the fans to really keep as a Bible structure to what is canon, because it's all canon. This is just what Leland said himself that he is using for in-house of keeping the holocron together. So G-Canon for George Lucas, made up only of the 6 Star Wars movies and unpublished internal notes from Lucas or the movie production department. Again, no TCW film our shows. All right, C-Canon. For continuity, just about anything created by authors, so that includes most of the expanded universe. Most of. S-Canon. For secondary. Used for older published material created when there was less attention to making everything in the EU fit with everything else in the EU if it gets referenced someplace else. It moves up to C-Canon. It also can include video games, play mechanics. And when you look at these hierarchy of canon, like fan-made publications of them, like on, that shared on Twitter and stuff, and I have one of them, they don't share what is written here, which I find funny. Because what is shared here is very different than those, examples of hierarchy of canon that they share. So those are not truthful at all. And I do have a super chat I'll get to you. And in canon, for non-continuity, rarely used except in the case of a blatant contradiction, but it also can be used for infinities type story that are developed outside of continuity intentionally, or crossovers and cross-branding like Darth Vader or Star Wars Transformers that might have a small backstory. So there you have it, you guys. This is in-house. This is an in-house structure. This isn't really for fans to follow. Anything like that. Anything like that. Now, can fans reference this to kind of understand how they were producing their material? Yeah. Yes, they can. But does this mean that like EU expanded universe is not canon? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean it's less or it's insignificant whatsoever. So yeah, so I thought I'd share this with you. I'm pulling up that video. I want to share, if I could find it real quick, of the Sentinels with Filoni's interview here to follow up with this. Let's see here. Let me find it. Here it is. Hopefully it will play for you guys. Let me take that one out. And let me get the super chat while I set everything up too. So MB Geek Bar and Grill, $5 super chat. Thank you so much for your support. I do not count T as part of the EU or the C-Canons that relates to T-Canon. That is a DEU, not EU. That is my thoughts, and I stand by them. Yeah. Let me see. Diddly Squat says, originally, T-Canon wasn't a thing. Leland started to use it only to tell people that the TCW movie was not part of the film-only canon. But this specifically states that television and all that other stuff was part of C. Yeah, but I get what you're saying here. But it wasn't an actual tier. Only later became one. I think fans made it like one, but we'll get more into that here soon. Let's see here. Dilly Squat says, and this is only because there was a group who only wanted to take in consideration the movies and nothing else. Disney Lucasfilm canon goes below end canon for being soulless nonsense. And I don't even think, and hello, Mr. Dystopian, how are you doing? And Batu, I seen that you popped in. Hello. What did you miss? We're just going over the tiers of canon and all this. And in fact, I'm removing this one here. I don't need it just yet. But let me bring up that video and then we'll move on to our cringe factor here pretty soon. Let's see here. So with the follow-up of this, let me go ahead.
What do you think Ahsoka's going to live through?
Did you guys hear that? Let me know so I could play that again. So if you heard that, give me a thumbs up so I can play it. I have the audio on, but you know how things go with me. Did you guys hear that? When we play it again, give me a thumbs up. Let me know.
What do you think Ahsoka's gonna live through Clone Wars, or am I gonna change continuity? You can do whatever you want. It's your show, dude. Oh, that's true. That's true. I could do that, couldn't I? Well, who knows? It's all up for grabs. What do you think Ahsoka's gonna live through Clone Wars, or am I gonna change continuity?
So, oh, okay, so got a thumbs up. So this is how he feels about continuity. He could do whatever he wants. And he's holding a doll on top of his shoulder, talking into it and stuff. Yes, I agree. Creepy behavior. That's a narcissistic. That's a narcissist. That's a narcissistic behavior. That's a narcissistic behavior. Right there. It's really cringe, isn't it? This could be like a cringe factor article just in itself. It's a doll of himself too. Right. Like that's strange. I just don't know. I don't want to know if he has an Ahsoka doll. I don't want to know. My mind is going into dark places, you guys. Help me. Holy shit. Oh. Yeah, I was going on and on and on with that. A narcissistic. He's a narcissist. And like I said, he revealed himself once he was given free reins when George stepped back and gave him free reins of TCW. Yes, just like with the EU, George stepped in and said, okay, this is what we're working on, blah, blah, blah. And he did review some things, but some things that Filoni shared wasn't the truth of what the show was going to be about in one way, shape, or form. He's even admitted that he's lied to George before. So, I mean, who does that? Who does that? He plays kissy kissy with Ahsoka doll. Oh my god. Just do not call him a psychopath. We compared too many nut jobs out there. Yeah, so there's that. So, like I said, I'll share the rest of this article I'll take the pictures, or I'll go on my and get the digital portion of this and share on my Twitter community so you guys can check out that full article. And yeah, so TCW is C-Canon. And even when the T-Canon came out, it still ranged true with TCW being part of the C-Canon. It's part of the continuity canon. And we're going to go into one more thing here before we get into cringe factor. Let me see. Let me take this. Remove. All right. Get his ugly face off the screen. And we'll go to the debunk article here. So there's some things that I just want to find one here. So this is mainly about the Starlog stuff. But I think there's something. So when we get into the official, like, okay, we understand our fans want a single timeline. They're responding to a single timeline in such good favor. We're going to go ahead and give the fans what they want because it also is helping the company stay afloat. Mind you, between the movies, the EU did help keep Star Wars afloat. You have those hardcore fans. Remember, keyword hardcore versus the casual or common fan. Common fan only wants the movies. Casual fan only wants the movies, right? Hardcore fans wants everything else. They want to know what's going on outside the movies, about certain characters, about certain time frames. Well, we got noticed. And this is Insider 23, I believe, 1994. And this just gives you an input of like, we recognize what the fans want. And this is going to be our statement that the EU is official as well. So there's this. And then let's see right here. And I think this gets into TCW here. Let me see. Let's see here. All right. So, but that's it. And this is George talking about, and even Howard Rothman talking about the EU as part of the saga. And there is clips out there saying that George said that TCW isn't a part of G-Canon or his thing. And so we have that. So there we go. But I just wanted to share this in brief with you guys here. And let's go ahead and remove these here. And I'm going to see what you guys have to say. Filoni is a usurper. I believe he usurped Mandalorian from Favreau and will ultimately usurp Star Wars from George Lucas and remold it in his way. Oh, okay. You just reminded me of something. I got to pull this back up before we go into cringe factor. I have one more bit of information to share with you guys. Okay, let me get to that. So thank you for that. Let's get into this. So what you were saying here, Vertical Horizon, is you think that he will usurp Star Wars from George and remold it into his own vision. Well, this is from the Empire magazine about the Ahsoka show coming up. Now, a lot of material that they print to advertise and PR for a company gets approved, and they use like quotes and what the their interviewee, basically the person's being interviewed, will say. So I'm going to get the copy of this Empire magazine and I'm going to dissect it. We are going to probably discuss this on the Spacing this Friday evening, and it begins at 8:05. Catch me there with Open Airlock Policy and Tuscan Bob and Blake as well. And we'll probably discuss this in further. Now, this is a image within the magazine. So it's Ahsoka. She's pointing, she's got the lightsaber out. She's confronting someone. We see that. And it says, A New Hope. A New Hope. So what does this mean to you guys? This is past the OT. We already know that the main movie, Star Wars, which was renamed A New Hope, basically, the hope was Luke. But now there's this here with Ahsoka and the title A New Hope. And you see that it has the orange and white here, so it's framing, it's centering around Ahsoka. It is about Ahsoka. So is this framing her as a new hope? Lore-wise? Is this now putting a Luke in the shadows as not significant anymore? Well, when you look back at the making of Star Wars, the sequel trilogy, Filoni did give the idea out to cuck Luke and put him in the background as not being significant anymore. It was his idea. And every chance we got to see Luke, or whoever watched it in the DT or in the Disney lore, he doesn't seem as significant anymore. It's like there's no purpose to him anymore. In the lore, there's no purpose anymore. It's like, he's going to lead up to who Mark Hamill called Jake Skywalker. So Disney's Luke Skywalker. And you're correct here. I know you guys are starting to comment in here. If she was a New Hope, where was she in the OT? Not fighting the Empire. Yeah, so they're going to bring up some kind of story of her off on her own on a separate mission or whatever. And, I got into a discussion with someone on Twitter about this because he comes in and defends Ahsoka and Filoni all the damn time. Mind you, there's people like that, and that's fine, whatever. That's their hero, whatever. You can't, sometimes you're blinded to the truth, right? And he told me, well, Ahsoka, she turned her back on the New Republic. She looks down as the New Republic, and she turned away from the rebels too. But she looks at this as the New Republic as another institution, another bad institution, basically, is what he was telling me. So how in the hell is she a new hope when she's looking down at the very rebels who formed the New Republic, who want to stop the Empire, who has stopped the Empire, and are now fighting what remains of the Empire, which is very confusing now in Disney Star Wars, because you have them basically dismantling and killing themselves, whatever, because that was an order from Palpatine, to now they're the remnant. And then during that time frame, they totally disappeared to form the First Order. So they're tying this in weird. Yeah, I can get that. Maybe there's still people fighting, but by a certain time, and I wish I would have looked this up, there was a treaty and they were expelled, especially from the core or something like that. I could have got it wrong. But anyways, yeah. So how is she the new hope when she doesn't even believe in the rebel turned New Republic anymore? And then what is her purpose and her drive then if she doesn't believe in the New Republic and the forming new government and freeing everybody from oppression of the Sith Lord, the Emperor, and the Empire? What is her purpose here then, if that's the case? Why is she fighting Thrawn? Why don't she say, okay, if she doesn't believe and if she doesn't agree with the New Republic, then why doesn't she just allow Thrawn to take over, to start leading, to reorganize? See how this does not make sense? And how is she a new hope? How is she a new hope? Let's see here. A new hope from Filoni. Yeah, Lucas himself said Ahsoka is dead. Ahsoka Sims always used the excuse of, oh, she was off in the unknown regions dealing with Thrawn. No, she wasn't. It's almost as if he is modeling her after himself. Wow, that's a crazy one to look at that way. Another institution. Yeah, so that's what that was said, is that the New Republic is an institution that she doesn't agree with. And it's just the same old coming institution like the Empire. Basically, that's what they said. So this is where I want to get into this Empire magazine to read and dissect and go further. So once I get it, you guys will probably hear a lot from me. Mr. Weinstein, your 2 a.m. is here. Lucas also said TC was meant to be a 6-part series meant to expand the original micro series, but we all know what happened next, correct? And the Sentinel has presented some details on that too. Hey there, how are you doing, Star Wars Marvel purist? Nice that you are here. The Heir to the Empire line is the cringiest, most disrespectful line in history of all movie and TV trailers. It is. It's like, ooh, remember the Thrawn Trilogy, Heir to the Empire, book number 1? Here you go. We have Thrawn in this series. Big. And so, so they say, oh, he's heir to the Empire. Well, he's got to die. Right? But no, this is not a remake this is not an adaptation of Heir to the Empire either, or Thrawn Trilogy. Iris says, big lack of creativity, boring, and they could have made life easier to follow the storyline and EU, but they think they are good enough to world build, but they are not. Yeah, they don't have that. Also, there would be no rumors and news of a new Jedi pilot general called Luke Skywalker fighting in the rebellion. She would have known it was Anakin's son. Yeah, where was she in all of that? Like, even when you look in the materials that they're creating in the Disney Star Wars lore in the OT time frame, there's no Ahsoka either. So it's weird. It is weird. The post-Order 66 of Ahsoka is a clone created by Palpatine to secretly destroy the galaxy. From what the Endor series, the New Republic is filled with Imperials and has camps and brainwashing. So yeah. Ooh, member Thrawn again. You member, right? Member? Yeah. So I just wanted to share this. Like I said, I'm gonna go pick up the copy of the Empire magazine regarding this here. Probably today. I have to go to the store today anyways. And so I'm gonna go pick it up. You might hear from me on Twitter regarding it, but we are gonna probably get into this on the spacing as well. So stay tuned for that. So if you want to hear further thoughts of what I think regarding all of this, catch me with my homies on the spacing Friday night. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into cringe factor. Let's remove this. But let's get into cringe factor here. And we're going to switch gears. Let's see here. Cancel. You're not letting me do everything at once, are you? Damn you. All right. So we're going to get into cringe factor, switch gears here. But first of all, let's go ahead and play this fun little commercial here.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave One, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
So uncivilized.
So here we go. Here is a cringe factor article. The Star Wars prequels ruin Luke Skywalker's Jedi powers. What do you think about that? So the Star Wars prequels ruined Luke Skywalker's Jedi powers. Let me see here what's going on. New Hope, it's just the girls taking the stage. Hera, Sabine, and Ahsoka. Unless Ezra comes back, all the boys are dead and gone. That's not how you make an all-star. That's how you make an all-star female cast. There you go. If I could say that right. Yeah. So here we go. So, do you think the prequel trilogy chat, do you think the prequels ruin Luke Skywalker's Jedi powers? Like I said in the beginning of the show, I kind of got into this a little bit. So that was like, if you didn't know what was going on for cringe factor, that was a hint. I talked about how the prequels, we got to see the Jedi in their prime, the fully trained with all the temple, all the resources that they have at the temple, and years of mini masters going through training and becoming trainers themselves in pivotal parts of the order, from dual masters to people, to other, sects that they taught in, like sects, not sex. But anyways, we got to see the Jedi in their prime, their ability to use the Force and move with the Force while they're dueling in their different forms, what they specialize. Each Jedi specialized in one or two. Most common, they specialized in two, or all. Some did only singular specialization, like Obi-Wan, and they really mastered their form. And so I thought that was pretty cool. But when we get to Luke Skywalker in the OT, we only have two remaining masters of the order left. So the order wasn't really gone. The order was basically, the masters were hidden. So the order wasn't, public. It was still there. There was intentions of creating more Jedi through Luke and saving the Jedi that way. So the order wasn't extinct, just like Palpatine and Vader had thought. Just like, the Jedi of the PT thought the Sith were extinct, but they weren't. So we have that, that rhyming aspect of that, I guess you could say. So so we have this. So I'm going to go through this article and I want to know what you guys think about this. I really don't think, like I said, once we get to the OT, we have unconventional training, but it doesn't have to do with anything about Jedi powers. Like, how can the prequels ruin Luke's Jedi powers when we see him in the OT and he's starting to gain more power, ability, and stuff like that? But he's definitely not at his prime. He's a very quick learner. We know that because of his heritage, because of who he is, who his father is. He's the son of the chosen one, and his ability to learn. Let me see what you said. And Star Wars Marvel says, wrong. From a movie perspective only, it makes it seem like Luke is super underpowered and weak compared to the prequels, just like the prequels flying R2-D2 compared to the OT. I wouldn't use R2-D2 thing as a comparison, because that could just be a technology difference and what have you. But it is fully understood, like even from me, I grew up with the OT, then I watched the PT, that Luke was getting unconventional training and we didn't see him at his prime yet. He was barely becoming, and he was starting to develop. He wasn't going to be as experienced yet, like we see those in the PT who've been training and stuff all their lives. Let's see here. Nieman from the way of is the way to go, all form in one. There you go. Actually, OG, come to find out there's 2,138 Jedi remaining after Order 66. What is this, Disney one? You're laughing. It has to be Disney. All right. No, it didn't. Honestly, he had less than half of Anakin's training and experience, less potential, and had to basically undergo a super condensed crash course on how to use the Force and duel. Yeah, he did get a crash course. He's a fast learner, but doesn't mean that he's gonna, all his powers or all his abilities, strengthening in the Force and learning to duel, all of that is going to just happen overnight either. And we see that with the Empire Strikes Back. We even see that with him in Return of the Jedi. Yes, he is more matured, he is more experienced and more confident, but he's still growing. We even see that into the EU. Nowhere is he that capable and stuff like that, even in Shadows of Endor and stuff like that. So we'll go on. I'll go on. Let me get back to the article here. So this is by Marcelo Light. I'm guessing maybe I probably said that wrong. And this was from 2 days ago. The Star Wars prequel trilogy showed that Jedi at their height, correct, but sadly, this ruined Luke Skywalker's power levels and made him look weak. How could it ruin his power levels when the prequel Jedi have nothing to do with Luke's abilities like 20-something years later? George Lucas's Star Wars prequel trilogy made Luke Skywalker Jedi power look ridiculously weak. The son of Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, or the son of Anakin Skywalker, Luke Skywalker inherited all his father's powers. Not necessarily. I would like to do, I'm going to do it. I'm going to research on the abilities Anakin has versus Luke. And I don't think Anakin doesn't have Shatterpoint. Luke does. In The Empire Strikes Back, Vader revealed he was the one person Palpatine was afraid of. Because Luke had the power to destroy him because he was very strong in the Force. Being very strong in the Force doesn't mean that you have developed all your abilities yet either. While it is true this was accomplished in a way the Empire has not foreseen, the comment indicates just how powerful Luke really is. Yes, again, you could be very powerful, but if you don't have refine and train and grow your abilities, it's nothing. In theory, the prequel trilogy set up Luke to be even more impressive. The prequel revealed Anakin Skywalker was a chosen one and being a being born of the Force, whose power outstripped that of Master Yoda himself. And Lucas indicated Luke had the same kind of potential. Luke Skywalker is arguably more powerful than Darth Vader or even Anakin Skywalker himself, given the Dark Lord of the Sith was badly wounded after his faithful battle with Obi-Wan Kenobi. And that's even like I said, even George Lucas has stated that Luke would be more powerful than Anakin. So, but on closer examination, the Star Wars prequels made Luke look rather weak. So now he goes, the Star Wars prequels made Luke Skywalker look far less impressive. Maybe it was that we seen him have this crash course of training, this condensed, unconventional training, and we didn't get to see him in his prime just yet, because by the time he became a Jedi, that was the beginning. And once we got into the EU, we got to see him grow. So, but we still got to see him grow in the PT, which was very impressive, very much impressive. Did he do a lot of leaps and spins and turns? No, that wasn't really necessary. We did see him have some like prequel trilogy Force jumps or leaps in The Last Jedi. In theory, Luke Skywalker is Star Wars' strongest Jedi. Luke was meant to be Star Wars' greatest hero. He is the strongest Jedi. That's not a theory. We see that in the EU as well. We see that in the OT as well. Because he had short, unconventional training and advanced as quickly as he did, that indicates he's powerful. That doesn't indicate that the prequel trilogy made him look inferior either or less powerful. Luke was the first character to defeat Darth Vader in combat on screen. Yeah, so he knocked him down and Vader lost his arm. And in a sense, it was a defeat, but it wasn't, because he didn't kill him, but he didn't want to kill him. He could have, and he stopped himself. Yeah. However, when Luke Skywalker's action scene from the original trilogy are compared to the prequel trilogy Jedi scenes, they do not feel that impressive. Okay, so it's not impressive to this author because he's not jumping and leaping with a lot of Force abilities like we see the Jedi in the prequel trilogy. What is impressive that this person's not sharing with you is how Luke overcomes his doubt, his fears. He's always being saved, but that's his hero's journey, right? That's his hero's journey arc. But he learns quick. And that's the difference. A lot of these Jedi trained over a lifetime in the PT. Luke trained over the expanse of 4 years on his own and with his masters. That's impressive. To get to the level of him calmly dueling and holding his own against Vader in Return of the Jedi, that's impressive. Because Vader, Anakin Skywalker, that's years of training, years and years of training above Luke himself, who only by that time has 4. Does this mean Luke is a Gary Stu? No. It just means that he's a quick learner. And through his own self, determination and continuing to learn and grow, even without a master near him. He is very capable and he can hold his own. So that is impressive. No, he's not highly skilledly trained, I guess you could say, over years and years of the Jedi of the PT. And that does not lessen Luke's powers. In fact, Luke training with unconventional means over 4 years and being as advanced as he is seen in Return of the Jedi, that's impressive. That is very impressive. Even Vader calls him impressive for his ability to learn quick. And that's in Empire Strikes Back. So I don't think this person even realizes that. Obviously, it all comes down to the movie making technique available at the time. Lucas got to portray the Jedi as a superhero-like warriors in the prequels, thus breaking Star Wars power levels. That doesn't break Star Wars power levels, I guess you could say. If you want to say there's power levels in Star Wars, there is not. What he shared, like I just got done saying, is the prequel shared with this the Jedi at their height, and the majority of them have years and years and years of training, beginning at a very young age, being raised in the order. Luke only had 4 years. Anakin would say about 10 plus years, just as a Jedi. Let me see, but almost 20 years or whatever his age is, whatever. But he's had significantly more, but not as much as like maybe Obi-Wan. And of course, Yoda. No one could top Yoda. And Qui-Gon and Mace, they all came in at a very, very young age. That's the difference. So what makes Luke impressive with his Jedi ability, his strength, and his learning is that he advanced as quickly as he did within the 4 years. That's impressive. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, wastes no time showing how much impressive the prequel Jedi are than Luke. This is not about like saying the prequels is more impressive than the OT or anything like that. This is showing the years and years of training that these guys have. Even Qui-Gon at this age has longer training than Luke did. Not Qui-Gon, this is Obi-Wan that if you see my cursor, Obi-Wan, even at his age here, has long, significant training and a longer duration of training than Luke, even Qui-Gon. Luke, again, advances quickly for only 4 years. With a bigger budget and more advanced movie-making techniques, Lucas got to show the Jedi at their prime, correct, at least compared to the age of the Empire. So he had a bigger budget. The technology has advanced during that time. However, if you go back and research the dueling choreography scenes from PT versus the OT, they're both impressive. At the time of Luke Skywalker of the OT, that was more of a fencing type archetype of dueling, where there's more structure than we see with the PT and what Nick did for the choreography in that. Doesn't mean it's to shadow Luke Skywalker and his abilities whatsoever. Star Wars non-linear release strategy led to a few retcons and canon inconsistencies. This includes how powerful Luke really was compared to the prequel era Jedi. How is this a retcon and canon inconsistencies when Luke Skywalker is not even inside the PT? So how can this retcon Luke and his abilities? The Star Wars prequels went for a more fantastical approach to the Star Wars galaxy compared to the original trilogy, relatively grounded space opera approach. Like I said, Lucas wanted to show Jedi in the prime. And when we got to the OT, different times, different era, different techniques. Even Yoda had to, realize that their techniques and stuff had to change. As a result, the Star Wars prequel lightsaber fight and action scenes in general were much more inventive and visually interesting than anything in the original Star Wars movies. Like I said, the OT, they had some pretty good dueling in there. But was Luke supposed to be sharing that he knew everything? No, he wasn't, because this isn't Rey fighting against Kylo and winning. Luke had to show that he was learning, that he was strong, that he was capable, but also be defeated. That he still had a lot of training to do. We weren't supposed to get this flashy Luke Skywalker jumping and bouncing everywhere, using the Force with his abilities from the get-go. We were supposed to see Luke fail in his first duel. If we didn't, and he won, then we'd have some problems. So I don't know where this person's getting at, because he's not supposed to be fighting like the Prime Jedi of the past. He was still in the middle of training when he went off to fight Vader to save his friends, which, basically did more harm than good for everyone. But if he was going to be jumping and spinning and turning and using the Force and all of that against Vader, then that would have taken everything, all the experience. His arc would have been destroyed right then and there if he was able to fight Vader and defeat him. Because he was supposed to be looking like a prequel trilogy Jedi. So I think the person fails to understand this. And they get into the Clone War animated show, where they says it's a cartoon, where they even get more fantastical. But then again, you're seeing them in war, and you're seeing these experienced Jedi fight. So there's no comparison with that, because like I said, so this person's not really being analytical and deconstructing this in a more constructive way. The prequels Jedi are supposed to look significantly different than Luke Skywalker in the OT movies. And the reason is so we can see a difference. We can see the difference in how, Luke is trained versus them. Yeah, okay. Let's see here. Likewise, Star Wars Rebels. Oh, okay, so we're going to get into here. And this is where we kind of get, like if you watched Rebels, I only seen a few things on here because I was doing research. But they say, likewise, Star Wars Rebels saw Ezra Bridger and Kanan Jarrus cutting AT-AT legs and taking on multiple Inquisitors each week. Almost as if they were more important to the rebellion than Luke Skywalker himself. Oh, no. They just made them more or less, I guess you could say, on a Gary Stewish side. But Kanan was a Padawan. And when you go back into his backstory, from what I've seen, he's had more training. And then, of course, then Ezra there. So we're still in the I wouldn't say early stages, but we're, so that I would say that's exaggerated too. But I wouldn't compare that to Luke as well. And then still, both Kanan and Ezra were easily defeated by Vader. So, whereas Luke beat the Sith Lord in addition. Oh, let me read that back. Still, both Kanan and Ezra were easily defeated by Vader, whereas Luke beat Sith Lord. No, he was defeated by Vader in Empire Strikes Back. He almost defeated Vader, and realizing if he would have killed him, he would have turned dark, and he gave up on that. Vader got up. Vader was in that pivotal moment of, do I side with my master or do I save my son? So I would say Luke didn't really beat Vader. He redeemed Anakin. Because, if you go into what ifs, or if you speculate on that pivotal moment where Vader gets up and stands by his master, he's in that moment of decision. Do I join my master and allow him to kill Luke, or do I save Luke? In addition, Ahsoka Tano, again, she's years and years of training. Okay, so I'm done. I'm not going to read about Ahsoka here. So here we go. Hey there, Melissa. How you doing? And then the basic difference is the same you'd find in the traditional martial arts tainted by philosophy and peacetime versus more modern fight styles aimed to combat one-on-one in the ring. Just like Vader was ordered to go easy on Luke, still Luke proved to be strong enough to hold himself against his father. Correct. So I don't think this person is taken in consideration of again, Luke's small years of training, how advanced he still was, but how much he still had to grow. The PT did not lessen him as a Force, potential and a Jedi potential at all. Anakin had after 10 years of training, lost big time against Dooku. And after 3 more years of constant fight, he became strong enough to defeat Dooku. And only because he was ordered to go easy on him. And, you see Anakin as a Padawan against Dooku. He was kind of like how Luke was. He was all about pride and I got this kind of div. Okay. So Batu says, less impressive. What can I say? This was time. What can I say? This was a time when the Jedi were strongest. He's only just beginning. Correct. You're right. He's only just beginning. Impressive. Most impressive. Correct. Droid parts, especially high-spec ones like the thrusters, can wear out and break over the years and not be replaced, especially when the droid is no longer in active military service. Correct. Let's see. Yeah, but Vader also said that he wanted to train Luke, and take the Empire 2-on-1. Correct. I mean, come on. Who do you think he is? Rey? Yeah, I don't think he's Rey. Not a cook hiding in a hut on an island. Let's see here. No, it did not. Honestly, he had less than half of Anakin's training and experienced less potential and had to basically undergo a super condensed crash course on how to use the Force and duel. Correct. So there you guys go. We have this. And this person thinks that the PT lessens Luke and his potential. And it does not. It did not. And I don't think I've ever heard anybody say it did at all. People understood that we were seeing the Jedi at their height in the PT. People understood that Luke was getting condensed, unconventional training and learned and advanced as quickly as he did in 4 years. Doesn't mean he was at his height or his prime, because he wasn't. Because even in the PT, he was still learning. Like even I'll just reference this. Even in Heir to the Empire or the Thrawn trilogy, we'll go back. We'll just specifically talk Heir to the Empire. Luke was not at his prime there either. Facing Nogri, when you get into lore of the Nogri, Vader, when he first confronted the Nogri, they fought pretty well against Vader, but Vader took control. So little history there. But when you get into Heir to the Empire, and Luke's in that museum place, I forget the name of it, and he's looking at the tapestry and all that stuff, and he gets cornered by the Nogri. Luke has a hard time still. You know, he still hasn't been fully developed. Like, he's still developing as a Jedi, his abilities. Could he have force pushed them? Probably. But he's still developing. He still struggles. He still has to find a way out, clever way to defeat them in um I forgot the name of the sticks that they use. That shoots off the netting. But anyways, so he still has to find his way to defeat them and get away from them. And he still struggles. And then, so over the years, we see him develop. Dark Empire, we see him a little bit more extravagant, which I too was like, what the heck? However, when he goes to the dark side, he gets tainted, right? And that's even discussed in later on as he goes along. He has more doubt. He still struggles because of that, because he was tainted with the dark side. And when we get to the hand of Thrawn, Mara calls him out on that. Only until we see him years later on how wise he is, how strong and powerful he is with his abilities, his confidence, and yet he still struggles. Like, even through the New Jedi Order, he goes through a lot of struggle with the direction he should go, the Jedi should go with these new enemies upon them. Worried about if they take action, it'll lead them down a dark path. He doesn't want that for his Jedi. His faction is splitting because of his stance of being a little bit more passive than anything. And finally he snaps to it. He's like, wait a minute here. If we don't take action, if we stay passive, the galaxy's going to fall. And then after that, we see, him in the what's it called? The Swarm Wars. Sorry, I'm tired still. Like I said, I stayed up until 2 a.m. beating, and I'm gonna rest, and then I'm gonna beat again. But anyways, we see him and his abilities there, but we see him now, more in his prime in Legacy of the Force, or Legacy era. So we're seeing him by that time in his power, his confidence, and he's still doubtful. He still goes through shit, but we see him as his prime as a Force user, Jedi master or grandmaster, as we see like Mace Windu in the PT. So in Legacy era, we see him as we would see the PT, because you have to go through years of experience and training. You don't give up training after you become a master. You're always learning. And through teaching Padawans, that's also your way of learning too, because you're always experiencing something new with someone else. So by time, and I'll repeat this again, by time we see Luke in Legacy era, his abilities, his capabilities, his abilities with the Force mirror those of the PT. Excuse me. So of course he's not supposed to look like the Jedi in the PT, in the OT. No way is he supposed to at all. So thank you guys. That's my little tangent on that. I thought I would share that and go through a little bit of history with the PT and stuff like that. What did you guys think about the PT Jedi when you first seen them and their abilities and what they're supposed to look like at their prime? So one more question, and we're going to wrap it up here. So seeing the Jedi for the first time in their prime in the PT, what was your experience with that? How did it make you feel? Like, were you excited? Like, oh, hell yeah, this is what the Jedi is supposed to look like. Were you off put a little bit? Were you somewhere in between? Let me know. I'm going to take the article down. There you go. And so next week, while you guys answer this, next week, we're going to get more into this insider article. I think we're going to bring up the comics, and we're going to go into the legacy comics with Bantha and Cade Skywalker. So that should be fun. So we'll get into more of the lore in the later years, like years and years later, two generations or 3 generations away from Luke Skywalker, and talk about his descendants in the comics there. So if you have not read the legacy comics, I highly recommend you do that. That's your homework. OG Star Wars, your Star Wars teacher is going to give you homework. Read and do research. Read and or do research on the legacy era, the comics with Cade Skywalker. Yeah, and we'll get into that. So we'll get away from the PT. We'll get away from the Old Republic. We'll steer away from Luke in them, and we'll get into the descendants. You know, like Marasiah Fell. She is Jaina's descendant, even though it doesn't specifically say too much. It does. They do talk. Cade and her do talk about having similar common relatives, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah. So, and 99th Jedi Warrior says, best homework I've ever had. There you go. So get your noses, get your eyes into the legacy comics, read up on them. You have a whole week to do this, ladies and gents, and or research, and we'll get more into the descendants. And we'll talk about the order of that time, what happened. We'll get into the article here from this issue 101 of Insider, and we'll get more into that. And we'll discuss a little bit more about family and what they mean and what that means in Star Wars, like even adoption, because Bantha does adopt a child, has an adopted daughter. And then maybe we'll compare and contrast that with Rey taking the Skywalker name. So we'll get a little bit more into that. And I don't know what the cringe factor article is going to be. So they might go more into the coming Ahsoka show or whatever. So if you're catching the replay, thank you so much for watching. For those of you guys who sat through with me on CAF Chat, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate every single one of you guys, whether you catch the replay or you're here live in chat. You guys are amazing. You guys help me keep the love of Star Wars, and I hope I do, and I have that similar exchange with you guys, that I help you keep your love of Star Wars going, especially original Star Wars. And finally, I have someone who answered, I loved it. It's only natural that the Jedi from the past would fight like that. Also, we follow only the top tier Jedi during the TP. Most of the masters are weaker than Annie, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Windu. Correct. So you say the PT, not the TP. All right, we saw what happens when they tried to arrest Palpatine, right? Exactly. So again, thank you guys so much for being here. And please share this out, as always. CAF Chat is every Thursday, 9 a.m., unless I specifically state on Twitter. If I have something going on, I still want to try to keep the show going, so it might be sent to a different day and time. So, but other than that, the usual schedule is Thursday. Catch me on the spacing after 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll get into current events of Star Wars and other things as well that's going on. And it should be a good time. You'll get my further opinion on the Empire magazine article about the Ahsoka show and the New Hope of Ahsoka's the New Hope, I guess you could say. So we'll get more into that. So stay tuned. Catch you guys Friday night on Open Airlock Policies channel. And you guys have a good day. And may the Force be with you. I will talk to you guys later. Catch me on social media. And you guys have a good day.
I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure at this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
Another happy landing.